This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Good evening. Welcome to the Easthampton City Council meeting for July 15th, 2026. The meeting tonight is being recorded and broadcast by eMedia on Charter Channel 193 and live streaming on their webpage, easthamptonmedia.org. Councilors and participants in this meeting are gathered hybrid on the order extended until June 30th, 2027, allowing us to do so. I remind both the members of the City Council and the public participating remotely to remain muted until recognized by the City Council President. Also, for the members of the public, please remove your camera for the duration of the meeting unless you are participating in the public speak time or the public hearing. Thank you. This meeting is now called to order. Mary Ann.
J.P. Kwasinski.
Here.
Connie Denham.
Here.
Tamara Smith.
Here.
Felicia Jadzik.
Here.
Tom Peak.
Here.
Jonathan Schmidt.
Here.
Amanda Newton.
Here.
Kayam Jamrog McQuaid.
Here.
Nathan Markey.
Here.
Great, thank you, Mary Ann. At this time, we will take a moment of silence. Please do whatever you need to do in order to prepare yourself for this meeting or think about any individuals that you would like to remember at this time. Thank you. At this time, if you would like to participate in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance, now is your opportunity to do so.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you so much for that, your participation. At this time, we have some meeting minutes from April 22nd, 2026. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from April 22nd, 2026. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. At this time, we have public comment. We will have public comment until 6:15. It's an opportunity for you to speak to the council about any items not on our agenda, with the exception of the resolution. If you'd like to speak about the resolution, now is your opportunity to do so. As I said, you will have 3 minutes. When you have 30 seconds left, you will hear an alert, and then you will hear a second alert when your time is up. And when your time is up, please wrap up any last minute thoughts, and we will move on to the next individual. Also, if we have more individuals who want to speak, we will continue public speak after the public hearing and before the resolution. Okay? So if anyone would like to speak, please go up to the podium and state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Sarah Weinberger, and I live at 359 Main Street, Unit 11B in Easthampton. Thank you for letting me speak. ICE agents murdered Lorenzo Salgado Araujo in Houston and Johann Sebastian Duran Guerrero in Biddeford, Maine, less than a week ago. They didn't even cordon off the scene of the crime in Biddeford, so Kash Patel's FBI won't bother collecting evidence, and another ICE agent won't be held accountable. On July 1st, the New York Times reported that ICE arrested 10,000 people in 5 days. With another $70 billion allotted, ICE has more funding to kidnap, murder, disappear, and tear apart even more families. On Monday, it was Biddeford, but it could have been Easthampton. They are pausing traffic stops and expanding body camera use among ICE agents, another tactic to quiet the masses as the election draws near. The only thing that is going to change this murderous madness is to hold ICE accountable. And that's why I support the Easthampton City Council resolution in support of holding federal immigration agents accountable for violations of Massachusetts criminal law. Many people shrug their shoulders and say, what good is a resolution that's not legally binding? I say, this means that city officials must understand that federal ICE agents cannot disregard state and local criminal laws. The resolution asks the mayor of Easthampton and the police to support investigations of suspected illegal acts by federal agents, and that includes making sure to preserve a crime scene. I want to live in a city where everyone can have trust that we won't collect data from flock cameras and other license plate readers to share with Homeland Security, where it can be used against immigrants, protesters, or anybody else that they declare a threat. And I want to live in a city where anyone can seek help from the police, knowing that under no circumstances will the police cooperate with ICE. This resolution is an aspiration to be an even more welcoming city than we already are. And that's why I'm asking that our city council not only pass it, but act courageously to realize its goals.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to rotate between folks in the room and online. It's been brought to my attention that sometimes people online also have accessibility needs, and sitting through long meetings can also be challenging for them. So I just want to acknowledge that. So we'll just rotate between here and online. So next up would be Kathy Wazinski. Please unmute yourself, state your name and your address for the record.
Kathy Wazinski, Overlook Drive. I am here to speak against the resolution. I do not believe the city council should be spending their time and our funds on virtue signaling and resolutions. Your role is not to represent your own opinion or a small minority of residents. I would ask you that you consider the broad range of people in your districts, in your precincts, and across the city and their perspectives. There are too many individuals that are harmed by illegal aliens in our country, and ICE is doing the job that we've asked them to do. I do not see resolutions against the harm that is being done to the people being murdered by illegal aliens, like the state trooper that was hit down south a few weeks ago. Again, I ask that you attend to the business of the city. This is a federal matter, not an Easthampton matter. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Someone else in the room who would like to speak? Oh, yeah, okay. So please state your name and address for the record.
Sure, my name is Diane Palladino. I live in Easthampton, 49 Huckleberry Lane, which is, 49 Huckleberry Lane.
Yep.
So I'm going to repeat Lorenzo Salgado Araro. I'm going to repeat Juan Sebastian Guerrero. We need to say their names. They are the most recent victims killed by ICE. ICE wasn't even looking for them. They just saw men with brown skin, and they shot them and killed them. I'm the chair also of the Valley Interfaith Refugee Action Group, which acts on behalf of refugees, immigrants, and undocumented individuals. We have 16-member congregations from churches and synagogues and other non-religious groups working to protect individuals from the excesses of ICE and the federal government's abuses. As of March 2026, there have been over 7,000 brown-skinned people taken from the streets and courts in Massachusetts, whose fates are unclear. Some are in private ICE detention centers with no way to contact legal help or family. They are being held by ICE for deportation. The Trump administration wants 2,000 people detained each week with no charges. I ask that you support the proposed Easthampton City Council's resolution because we all have a duty to protect our neighbors, and we can do this by ensuring that our public safety officials, police, sheriffs, and the district attorney stop any and all support for ICE. Yesterday, our governor said this has got to stop. And I agree with her. So again, I ask that you support the proposed resolution. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We will go to online. John Boniface, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is John Boniface. I live at 30 Harris Street in Amherst, Massachusetts. I'm a constitutional attorney and I serve as the president of Free Speech for People, which is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to defending our democracy and our Constitution across the country. We were involved in helping to author the resolution, which the Amherst Town Council passed in February, which I know has served as a model for the resolution you're considering tonight. J.D. Vance has stated that when federal agents engage in their actions across the country, they have absolute immunity. That is a complete legal fiction. There is no such thing as absolute immunity. The Supremacy Clause of the Constitution makes clear that federal agents have immunity when they conduct lawful actions across the country. But they do not have immunity to commit murder, to engage in assault and battery, to kidnap, to engage in illegal detentions and other crimes. There is no such immunity. What this resolution does is state very clearly that when federal agents commit crimes in the state of Massachusetts and in our communities, they must be held accountable under state criminal laws for those violations, just like anyone else. I urge the resolution, this city council to pass this resolution, to join the town of Amherst, the city of Northampton, which have already passed such a resolution, and to call on our state and local officials, including our state attorney general and the local district attorney, as well as local police force, to enforce state criminal laws against federal agents when they commit crimes in our communities. Donald Trump has used ICE, is using ICE as a paramilitary force to terrorize our communities across this country, and it must be stopped. And the state criminal laws is a form of accountability for ensuring that these federal agents are not able to engage in committing these crimes. Thank you for taking up this resolution. I urge you to pass it.
Great, thank you very much. We have time for one more in person. So great, so please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Kay Collins for Carroll Ave, Easthampton. Just a quick note to say that there have been, as of July 15th, 2026, 22 publicized deaths in ICE custody in 2026 alone, as well as 2 American citizens, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, that were killed by ICE officers. And we do have laws in the United States to prevent killings of American citizens by anybody, including ICE agents. So I did just want to put that out. We do have criminal laws that do take care of that. I'm going to quote something from writer Judith Dale. There is an F-bomb in that, so I'm going to drop that because I did consider editing that, but I do believe that the situation right now is so severe that I'm going to drop that F-bomb. What the fuck are we doing? Too many people have hidden behind the word politics. It has become the excuse used to avoid making moral judgments. Calling out cruelty, corruption, dishonesty, abuses of power, or the erosion of democratic norms isn't just another political opinion, and it never was. This has never been just about politics. It has always been about morality, about what kind of people we choose to be when power rewards cruelty instead of compassion, loyalty instead of integrity, and blind allegiance instead of truth. Every generation likes to imagine it would have recognized the moments in history that history now condemns. The truth is that history isn't written by people who recognize those moments afterward. It is written by the people who refused to normalize them while they were happening. Every time people in positions of power excuse something because it's politically convenient, the line moves. Every time institutions decide that character matters a little less than power, the line moves. Every time leaders explain away corruption because it benefits them, the line moves. Every time cruelty becomes entertainment instead of a moral breaking point, the line moves. We keep telling ourselves someone somewhere will finally draw the line while watching the line disappear in real time. So now, I'm done pretending this is complicated. Some things are simply wrong. The world only becomes this way when people allow it to, not all at once, but one excuse at a time, one compromise at a time, one rationalization at a time, one institution deciding accountability at weight. Does a resolution matter in terms of what we can do to prosecute murderers? Maybe not, but it does show that we are standing up against what is inherently wrong.
Thank you. There will be more comment after our public hearing, but we have a public hearing at 6:15, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start that. So I will take a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to open the public hearing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. I will turn it over to Chair Kwasinski.
Thank you, Madam President. We have two requests tonight to consider. Both are for new polls. We do have a representative of Eversource here if there are any questions. I think it's pretty straightforward. The property committee did meet to discuss these two, and it made recommendations that the council approve. The polls, let's start with the one on Greenwood Court. That was a request for a poll in front of number 20 Greenwood Court. That's where Williston has a large building when you come in off of right in front of where the skating rink is. Mm-hmm. And so they were hoping to divide their part of where they get their service so they could shut down the site for the skating rink and still have power elsewhere. Right now they're linked together. The power comes through the rink. Anyway, this is a request for a pole right in front of their building, which is relatively new, at that location. The site plan is available if anyone would like to see it. It is in the agenda. Is there anyone here who would like to hear from Eversource regarding the matter? I'd like to hear.
I just have a question for you, sure. Not to bring up a sensitive subject. Have these polls already been put in place?
I'm glad you asked that question. And we did discuss that at the committee meeting after we went through, and we were pleased to say that the polls were not in place.
All right, thank you.
So they were not in place. For those of you who may not have known, there was a situation where polls were placed without coming before this board. This enables the community to have input as to where and when polls are constructed, what types of materials are used, how it's taken down, and also whether or not, if there are trees that have to be removed, sometimes there are. Mm-hmm. In this case, none of those situations apply. So there were no polls. I'm happy to say.
Great. Do any counselors have questions for Eversource? Councilor Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam President.
Are they here or are they online?
If you could stand up, please. And
so why don't you come up
over
to the podium here? Great. If you could just state your name and.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Jesse Martin, Eversource Hadley.
All right, great. So Councilor Schmidt.
Thank you. So I know this comes before the council time to time. This is my first opportunity to sort of see it happen. And so on some level, I'm just looking for some general kind of edification around this. First and foremost, noting that there are, polls in place already. I'm just curious a little bit about the process of determining when a new pole is sort of strictly necessary for a project that's coming up, and sort of what goes into that kind of decision-making rather than trying to utilize what's already there. Sure. In this instance, the line is dead-ended right in front of the building. There is a three-phase riser on the existing pole that feeds the transformer that takes care of the rink and the physical plant building. Like JP said, they want to split the services so that the physical plant can continue to have power when the ice rink needs maintenance. So with the equipment that's on the existing dead-end pole, I can't put transformers on that pole, so we're going to extend it one more pole to install transformers to feed the building. Great.
Great. Councilor Schmidt, follow-up question?
I have an additional question, but just to clarify, are we speaking only about that one pole and then we'll move on?
We're talking about 20
Sure.
Greenwood Court.
Great. This question kind of spans both things, but I wonder if you could just explain the distinction between a solely owned and jointly owned pole.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So the one at Greenwood Court in question is a solely owned pole because only Eversource utilities will be on that pole. When we want to install a new pole, we have to share most of the time with Verizon as our main customer. So we reach out to them with a form that we use, a standard form that we use. They rejected it. They have no use for being the extended pole. So that one is solely owned. The one on Nipper Ave is going to be joint owned because it's a crossover pole feeding new residential apartments, and it's going to have communication services on it as well. Thank you. That's all for now.
That's all? Good. Any other questions from councilors? Great, thank you, Mr. Martin. Appreciate you. Chair Kwasinski.
Anybody from the public?
Oh, yeah. Anyone from the public? No, I didn't think so.
Anyone online?
Anyone online? All right, seeing none. Chair Kwasinski.
I would then make a motion to approve the petition filed by NStar Electric Company doing business as Eversource Energy to relocate and/or install poles, wires, cables, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across Greenwood Court, and to install one solely owned pole along Greenwood Court on the southerly side of the road, approximately 18 feet from the road center line and 50 feet from the existing pole 71/7. Also for permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, wires in the above or intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as it may desire for distributing purposes, and that the petitioners agree to reserve space for one crossarm at a suitable point on each of the said poles for the fire, police, telephone signal wires belonging to the municipality and used by it exclusively for municipal purposes.
Second.
And said pole to be erected substantially in accordance with plan filed mark 267-622-89-805-61079.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to install one solely owned pole for the purpose of providing electrical service to the building at 20 Greenwood Court. Any further discussion? Councilor Schmidt.
I actually thought of an additional question as we were reading through that. I just wanted to double check that in terms of the laying of underground laterals, any construction that would be required in that, I just want to make sure that that is an expense that the company is paying for versus a city expense.
Those would be expenses that the company would be paying for as part of the work, and if I'm mistaken, I would really look to the expert here.
Mr. Martin? Yeah, I'm sorry. Just so
For
everyone
any
can hear.
contradictory evidence, but that's the case.
Mr. Martin?
Hi. Yes, if that were necessary in this project, it would be a cost of the company. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Chair Kwasinski.
We do have a proposal for Nipfer Avenue, and that is at 32 Nipfer. There is a construction underway at that site. There is temporary service to the site. The pole would be near where the temporary service is currently located. There are no driveways that are clearly distinguished or marked, so there isn't any interference with line of sight as far as the public ways are concerned that we could determine. The committee recommended 3-0 to the council to approve.
Great. Any questions from councilors? Councilor Schmidt.
So really, it's just the same question as sort of the first question that I asked. And I think this is really the one I was more curious about because it's more of a residential area. There are, I think, it seems like if I'm understanding the map correctly, more poles in the vicinity. So again, just kind of the process of deciding when this is necessary.
Mr. Martin?
Yeah, it's necessary in this instance because the customer is doing an underground service, so across a pole avoids having to cut the road, back the road, et cetera, causing more bumps. That's basically it. It just gives them a service point to feed the new residences.
All right, thank you.
So I actually have a question, sorry. Since you just said cutting the road, is this an expense that the?
We're not cutting the road.
Oh, not cutting the
The pole
road.
creates a connection point to avoid cutting the road.
Okay, sorry, I thought you
More
said cutting the road. And I was like,
radius.
ooh, ooh. All right, great, thank you so much. Sure. Any further questions? All right, seeing none. Anyone online or in the room have questions regarding this poll? Seeing none, Chair Kwasinski.
I will make a motion to approve the petition filed by N-Star Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, and Verizon New England Incorporated to relocate and/or install poles, wires, cables, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across Nipfer Avenue, and to install one jointly owned 35-foot utility pole approximately 18 feet from the road center line, 48 feet easterly of the pole 91/B14, and 30 feet westerly of the pole 91/B15 on Nipper Avenue. Also for permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, wires, and the above in intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as each of said petitioners may desire for distributing purposes, and that the petitioners agree to reserve space for one cross arm at a suitable point on each of the said poles for the fire, police, telephone signals belonging to the municipality and used by it exclusively for municipal purposes, and that said poles be erected substantially in accordance with the plan filed marked 25/74535-805-47208.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to install one jointly owned 35-foot new utility pole that will extend facilities across Nipfer Avenue to a new home at 32 Nipfer Avenue. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Great. Thank you, Chair Kwasinski.
Move to close the public hearing.
I
Second.
have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Great, so I will again reopen public speak. I see Mordecai Kamel online. Please state your name and address for the record.
Mordecai Kamel, 359 Main Street, Easthampton. Madam Chair, I am speaking in support of the resolution with a caveat that this resolution is woefully insufficient historical terms. The question has already been spoken to in terms that are relevant, which is the terms of morality. Are we going to be bystanders or are we going to be upstanders? We have a Gestapo running loose in this country, which is as bad or worse than the one that ran loose 80 years ago in Germany. If we do not rise and act as devoted public citizens, then the future will be looking at us as saying, how could they just let this happen? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone in the room? Great, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Coteen. I live in Huckleberry Lane in Easthampton, and I'm also a member of the Valley Interfaith Refugee Action Group. I want to thank the council for considering this resolution. Easthampton was first settled by European immigrants beginning in 1664. In the ensuing 362 years, many thousands of additional immigrants have called Easthampton home. Personally, I call Easthampton home, and I am an immigrant 2 generations removed. The vicious attack on immigrants today by the current administration is ugly, deadly, and cruel, beyond anything we have seen in this country since the internment of 120,000 Japanese in 10 concentration camps during World War II. Right now, the United States maintains the largest immigrant detention camp infrastructure in the world. As of February 2026, ICE reported using 225 detention centers and holding at least 73,000 individuals in custody, the highest level since it was founded in 2003. People of color have been particularly targeted. 2 men in Maine and one in Maine and one in Texas, as have been previously referred to. They were not even the men that ICE was looking for. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Although people of color are at greater risk, we are all at risk if we protest, speak out, or stand up for our neighbors. More than 7,000 immigrants have been arrested in Massachusetts since Trump returned to office. Of this total, only 19% had any criminal convictions. 81% had no criminal convictions. Obviously, the 7,000 were not the worst of the worst. This resolution sends a number of messages. Members of the City Council are speaking to the residents and visitors to this city. We welcome you, we value you, we'll do what we can to protect you. We say that ICE and other federal agents do not have immunity when they assault, kidnap, and murder you. Members of the City Council call on all local and state public safety officials to protect the residents of Easthampton and all residents of the Commonwealth from unlawful actions by federal agents. Members of the City Council call on the Attorney General and the Western District Attorney to commit to investigating any evidence indicating that a crime has been committed by federal agents and to enforce state criminal laws against those agents when they commit a federal crime. Members of the City Council call upon the Governor and Lieutenant Governor to immediately cease all cooperating agents' agreements with ICE. I call upon the City Council to unanimously adopt this resolution and send these messages. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep, so please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Sarah Carr, and I live at 16 First Avenue in Easthampton. Others have already quoted many valuable statistics and spoken much more eloquently to this than I will. But I felt like I wanted to get up and say something. It feels really important to me. I don't know about you, but I feel very powerless around this issue. And as another previous speaker mentioned, this feels woefully inadequate in terms of action. But what I do believe in is that when people start to stand up together, there is a reverse domino effect. And when people stand up together, it does send a message. And it does send a message to ICE that they cannot come and act the way that they have been acting in this city and in this state and assume that they will not incur any consequences for that. I don't know what those consequences will look like. I don't know who will do the prosecuting. I don't know what kind of position that puts our police officers in, our district attorneys. But I do know we have to start somewhere. And when I saw that Amherst adopted this resolution back in February, I immediately wrote to our city councilors and asked them to do the same. And I'm asking you to do that tonight because it's a start. It's a standing up start. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anyone online. Next, so please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Ellen Leahy-Pyle from 28 Lazy D Drive, Precinct 2. I'm supporting the resolution. Our municipal police operate within mass laws and department policies, but sadly, federal immigration agents do not. Our municipal police are better trained than federal agents. Easthampton residents need this resolution to assure us that federal agents can't commit crimes and violate our residents' rights without a full response and investigation from our own police, our own DA, our own Attorney General. We are all at risk. There are people attending this meeting tonight who could easily be attacked by federal agents for exercising their First Amendment rights. Massachusetts has a history going back well over 250 years of town-level action, of small cities and towns resolving to stand against tyrannical destruction of rights. We need this resolve from our town government tonight. Thank you for considering it.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, everybody. Miriam Ansara, 359 Main Street. So, why should the Easthampton City Council pass a resolution like this? Well, before I talk about that, what I want to point out is that this is not the first time that this city has faced potential backlash against immigrants. Except for people who were brought to this country in chains, and except for the people whose land we took, we're all immigrants. And in the 1920s, the population of Easthampton doubled with immigrants, and these were the people who worked in the jobs nobody wanted in the mills. And while they were essential to the town's economy, and here I'm quoting, they faced intense nativism, economic exploitation, and a massive surge in regional Ku Klux Klan activity that stoked widespread anti-immigrant fear. So that was the 1920s, and I think I've heard quite a few people in this town who are a minority express views against our new recent immigrants who were part of those communities that came to Easthampton, made a home here, faced intense discrimination, and fought for the right to be here. But why should we pass this? I want to remind people that this is a continuum of work that we have been doing as a community now since 2015, I'd say, 2014, when a group of us, many of whom are here in this room now, and some of whom were on the city council, worked for 3 years to collect hundreds of signatures that led to the consideration and passage of the Welcoming City Ordinance, which is the law of the city. And not only that, when Trump came back in office, well, for heaven's sakes, when Trump came back in office, some of us went to our then mayor, our city councilors, our chief of police, and said, will you stand by this ordinance? And this ordinance says that we will not allow federal authorities to come in and trample on the rights of our people. We won't do it. We won't permit it. And this resolution backs that up. And we have reaffirmed that time and again. And not only that, many in our city's government have now been trained by LUCE and the ACLU in observation and correct ways to protect our recent immigrants. And they're recent immigrants because we're all immigrants, well, except for a few of us. to protect our recent immigrants. And so what this resolution is another step in that process. And so I think it's logical that we pass it tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, I don't see anyone online. Please state your name and address for the record.
Mona Shady, Ward 1. I am an immigrant. My family came here in 1989 to the Berkshires. And when we began our new lives, we very quickly joined a community of other immigrants who were also newly arrived, some of us documented, some of us not documented, some of us in the midst of gaining documentation. And what me and my friends found was the difference between us as children, whether we were perceived as children, as actual human beings, or vermin, burdens, or filth, were pieces of paper and little plastic cards. Pieces of paper and plastic cards that are not handed out based on the caliber of your character, your good deeds, or your integrity, but based on if you have money. And that's what decides immigration. Money. Those who don't have money can't pay to play. And when we went to school, we learned many things about the wonderful history of America, including that inscribed on the Statue of Liberty, one of the things inscribed is Emma Lazarus's poem, The New Colossus, which reads in part, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe." And when we spoke to people or heard from people who hated us, from one side of their mouth, they would talk about how we were a problem and we were a burden. And from the other side of the mouth, they would absolutely spare no minute in regaling you with how their forebears came with the clothes on their back, tattered coats, and a few dollars and cents in their pockets. No mention of papers. They were allowed a chance to create new lives here. Is that still true? Or is it now void where prohibited and while supplies last? The U.S. has engaged in egregious destabilizing actions in countries around the world for almost 100 years, leading to scores of people fleeing their homes, many of whom have had to flee here to the country that has caused their suffering. We have an opportunity to do right by them, to do right by ourselves, and to the country that we are in that ostensibly stands for freedom, liberty, and the opportunity to build a new, better life. This resolution is a step in that direction. Let's begin to go in that direction. Let's begin to go in that direction. We say is what we stand for. Please pass this ICE accountability resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Carolyn Cushing, Main Street, Precinct 4. Thank you to the community members who worked on this resolution and the city councilors who have brought it forward. So we have a channel for our grief, rage, and horror about the killings carried out by federal agents, the latest ones and the ones we haven't forgotten. Agents of the federal government are killing us. They are killing us if we are undocumented, despite being integral members of our communities like Lorenzo Salgado Arujo in Texas. They are killing us even when we are here legally, like Juan Sebastian Guerrero in Maine. They are killing us if we are citizens, like Renee Good, Alex Preddy, and Keith Porter. They kill us and lie about it in the immediate aftermath. Then they open up criminal cases to investigate the victims, not those who were the killers. Those of us they don't kill, they detain without due process, so illegally, in a sprawling for-profit private prison-run detention system. Here, corporations like Core Civic and Geo Group lock up people, adults and children, even toddlers and infants. And the less they feed or provide services, the more money they make. The state of Massachusetts should have no connections to this corrupt system, which is why important that the resolution calls out the 287G agreements that lead to cooperation with ICE. Massachusetts is the only Democrat-led state that has one. We shouldn't need this resolution. It should be obvious that all, including federal agents, must follow state law, but we do need it. Please pass it. To close, I have a poem. Portrait with monsters just out of view. A neighbor claims kindness, clips cruelty, 'cause she knows not to call the cops or look for insurance when the man who dinged her car is crying, unable to say why without enough English, and maybe imagining the door lock click on a room full of fluorescent glare, so unending, he draws the silver mylar blanket over his head Under there, he imagines his daughter, the kindergarten graduation he'll miss, her black braid shining over the pink dress he bought her last week. Or imagining the plane taking off with his body in it, but the thin sheaf of his self forever laid flat on the tarmac. Is he imagining this steep price to pay for one bad luck bang? Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mike Caribou on 10 Line Street. Any loss of life is tragic, absolutely, okay?
Be sure to talk to the.
But yet, nobody has mentioned the state trooper who was killed by the name of Michael Pahira. Michael's just doing his job when a individual who was not here legally was issued a driver's license by the governor of this state, where may not been able to read or write the language, drove a vehicle, tractor trailer, into that trooper, killing him. There was no proclamation calling on the governor or the DMV to stop issuing driver's license to people that are not here legally. So the thing I want to say too, in regards to, I know that people have brought up other people, Preddy and Renee Good. I've just seen recently where that information from the DOJ has been provided to the state of Minnesota. So it is now in the state of Minnesota's hands to do what they feel. If any of those agents, even the one in Maine, and any agent that does anything illegal or unscrupulous in the state of Massachusetts should face the laws of the state of Massachusetts. I agree with that. Nobody is above the law. So to pass a proclamation, why not pass a proclamation against the governor? No more driver's license issued by the DMV in Easthampton to people not here legally. So ICE came into existence in 2004 after the 2001 bombing. There's been 3 Democrat presidents, and there's been 2 Republican presidents, and they've all used ICE. But in 2020, a large flow of individuals came across the southern border, not vetted, not checked. I'm sure if somebody would break into your house, you would want them arrested, you would want them prosecuted. The same thing, somebody broke into our state. They should be arrested, they should be prosecuted, and then returned. That's just common fact. That's how you keep the country the country. And again, I reiterate, any loss of life is tragic, be it somebody who's not here legally or that state trooper. And we can also talk about the other individuals that nobody mentioned who were also killed by people that were not here legally. So again, passing the proclamation is really not a use of the taxpayers' time or money.
Great, thank you very much. Next, would you like to say something? Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Julie Slavitt. I live at 14 Nichols Way in Easthampton. I want to say one thing really quickly, that it has been proven that immigrants commit crimes at a far lower rate than non-immigrants. And I think that is the truth, and we need to realize that. I know I'm supposed to be looking at you. So the first thing I just wanted to say is that my grandparents were refugees, and just to talk about the illegitimacy and randomness, except for money and hate, in terms of our immigration laws. My grandmother was born in Boston, and she married my grandfather, who was a Russian alien who was in the process of becoming an American citizen. There was some really disgusting anti-immigrant legislation that was passed in the 20s that prevented, that took away her citizenship. She lost her citizenship because she married someone who had not yet been naturalized. And her son, my father, a first-generation immigrant, fought in World War II. He was in Normandy on D-Day 6. He was at the Battle of the Bulge, and he was furious for his entire life because his mother had to reapply for citizenship after he had served. So I think going back and talking about the way immigration legislation has been and what's legal and not legal really opens a lot of questions. The other thing that I wanted to say is I'm a new immigrant to Easthampton. And at the first Indivisible Easthampton event that we held, someone yelled at me from this community who I know has immigrant roots, like many of the folks here, and I really respect that. Someone yelled at me to go back to Venezuela. And I think that sort of coincides with what Mona Shadi was saying and Mary was saying, which is that we need to respect each other. We are all, many of us are immigrants, and we need to listen to each other's stories and respect the commonality that we all have. And I'm very proud to have heard the kind of things that people have said here about this resolution, and that the City Council is taking it up, and the shoulders that we stand on, and I ask for you to pass it. It's really important. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I don't see anyone else. All right, so closing public speak. Items for immediate attention, resolution in support of holding federal immigration agents accountable for violations of Massachusetts criminal law. Councilor Jamrock McQuaid.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll try to introduce this as eloquently as many members of the public have tonight. But as was mentioned, Councilor Denham, Councilor Newton, and myself worked together with members of the community who were interested in taking that next step. I know that we had done a resolution affirming our welcoming community trust ordinance earlier this year, but this felt like a natural next step to create something that has a little bit more teeth to it. So.
Great. So thank you for that, Councilor Jamrock McQuaid. At this time, because it is a resolution, any councilor has the right to send it to committee for further review, or if nobody does, then we can vote on this matter this evening. Okay. Do you have a question?
Yes. When are we supposed to read into the record just statements
Speak up.
that were sent to us?
Oh, yes. Sorry
I was
about
asking
that.
about, we had some statements sent to us. And I was
Yep,
asking
we
about
had some
when
statements that needed to be read into the record. We can actually do that now. So I apologize. We can do that. Councilor Newton, I know you have one. Councilor Schmidt, you have one. And Vice President Jadzak, you have one as well.
Question, point of,
Did I give it to you? No.
point of order.
Point of order?
If those statements have to do with the resolution, I think we should deal with your issue first as a matter of rules. In terms of order, if a counselor did it, I didn't hear whether a counselor had an objection. That should be dealt with first before further discussion and deliberation occurs.
We can do that. I was just going along with the public comments, so in the same vein, but that's fine. We can do it that way. So does any?
If they were being read by a member of the public, I think that would be a different matter, but they're being read by a counselor.
Okay.
I think that's a gray area.
Okay, yeah, no, I hear you. Does anyone have would anyone like to send this to committee? Okay, seeing none. So Councilor Markey?
I do have a question. I wrote a brief statement on this as well. I'll be allowed to.
Yep, you can do that when we get to any comment about this, which could be now, but also, we can also hear from the comments. Would you like to start with comments?
I'm comfortable with reading my statement after the resolution is read.
Okay, so we can do that. Councilor Newton, would you like to read your statement at this time, since we are going to move forward with the resolution?
Yes. So this statement is coming from Janelle Tryon at 13 Louise Ave in Easthampton. Okay, so it says, this statement asks the councilors of Easthampton to follow the model Amherst has set for our region and the country, as well as the precedent we have set in enacting our Welcoming Trust Ordinance in 2019 and renewing it in 2025 by passing the Easthampton Resolution to hold ICE agents accountable. The resolution sends a clear message of commitment, care, and liberation to our immigrant friends and neighbors in Easthampton, especially at a time when many of these members of our community have been forced into hiding out of fear. Unfortunately, this fear deepens every day that ICE continues to chase down, abduct, abuse, and murder with impunity. In just this last week, ICE fatally shot Lorenzo Salgado Araujo during a traffic stop in Texas and Johann Sebastian Guerrero in Maine on Monday morning. Mainstream news outlets have emphasized the legal standing of these men and the likelihood that neither was the intended target of these operations. These statements offer tacit justification for the violent pursuit of those who might be undocumented or intentionally sought by these lawless officers, and for the federal system that backs them with unlimited monetary and material resources. In addition to doing everything in our power to seek justice for all those who have already been devastated by DHS since its inception, we must also proactively hold ICE agents accountable for their criminal behavior. I ask the Easthampton City Council to support this resolution, protect our community, and lead by example.
Great, thank you. Councilor Schmidt.
So I have a statement here from Ann Chase and Lynn Troy at 359 Main Street, Unit 8B. We just learned from Kelly Brown's presentation at Easthampton's 250 celebration about the influx of Polish and French Canadian immigrants who more than doubled Easthampton's population in the early 1900s, thus becoming a central part of our community. It seems particularly apt, based on that history and our coming anniversary, that we should continue to support immigrants by standing with Easthampton's Welcoming Trust Ordinance, which was just reaffirmed in 2025 to prohibit federalizing any part of city government, including the police. We want to strengthen our community's commitment to the safety of both residents and visiting immigrants by making clear that ICE agents must be held accountable for their actions under state law. This is in keeping with the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution, which provides no immunity to federal officials who violate state criminal laws. Given this, please note our support of the resolution in support of holding federal immigration agents accountable for violations of Massachusetts criminal law. Ann Chase and Lynn Troy.
Great, thank you. Any other comment by councilors before I turn it over to Councilor Jan Mark McQuaid? And you'll also have an opportunity to say something afterwards as well. So, Vice President Janczak.
Thank you. I do want to note really briefly that Jean Einstein did email us and would like to go on record with her support of this resolution. So I wanted to just note that into the record. But personally, I'd like to also make a quick comment. And so I think some people know, but many people may not, that my mom is an immigrant from India. And I have many members of my family who are also immigrants to this country. On my dad's side, they are also immigrants, although going a little further back on the Polish side. So as has been spoken together here tonight, we all, in some ways, are immigrants, whether to Easthampton or to this country. And I think that for me, reading this resolution really, and just being in this moment in this country right now, really brings to mind the feeling of this country after the 9/11 attacks, when, not for the first time in my life, but for a very pointed moment in my life, I felt the spotlight of what it is to be brown in this country. I felt and experienced what it's like to be pulled aside going through airport security. always having to assume that I'll have to build an extra time, being targeted. Now, this is not about my experiences, but I want to name that because I think it's really important that resolutions like this, yes, they may not mean anything in a larger scheme because we are a small city, but this is where we are able to do things that really impact our neighbors and ourselves on a day-to-day basis. And so just like representation is important, statements like these are really important as well because they tell each other, they tell us, they tell our neighbors that we belong here, that this is not right, that these agents need to be held accountable for breaking the law and for murdering people. So I just want to say I'm fully in support of this resolution and I'm really looking forward to voting yes for it.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Councilor Marquis.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm just going to read my statement now because it seems like an appropriate time.
Floor is yours.
I want to thank Councilors Connie Denham, Amanda Newton, and Kayam Jamrog McQuaid, along with members of the public for bringing this resolution forward. Though I support the rule of law, I consider ICE a rogue federal agency that should be abolished unequivocally. There will be a time that the Trump administration will not be in power, and when that time comes, if not before, ICE agents will be held accountable if they violate the laws and the constitutional rights of the United States of America. The time will come and legal actions will be prosecuted. Lastly, I wholly support this resolution and intend to vote for it. Though I support it, I don't feel that it goes far enough. And I don't believe that we should rest until ICE is completely dismantled as it currently is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other comments? Again, you'll have time after during discussion. Councilor Jamrog McQuaid, I will turn it over to you to read this in the form of a motion.
Thank you.
Madam President. So in the form of a motion, this is the Easthampton City Council resolution in support of holding federal immigration agents accountable for violations of Massachusetts criminal law. The Trump administration has weaponized the federal government against our neighbors and community members in an unconstitutional overreach in violation of basic civil liberties, in service of a white nationalist political agenda targeting immigrants, communities of color, and queer people. This violence is happening across the country, with at least 14 detainees killed in U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE custody since the start of 2026, including Jose Guadalupe Ramos Solano and Aled Damien Carbonell Betancourt. We have seen it here in Easthampton, with eyewitnesses reporting ICE abductions of at least 4 individuals from our own city streets. Whereas Easthampton is home to a thriving community of immigrants that form an integral part of the Easthampton community. And whereas Easthampton values the contributions of all its immigrant residents and seeks to treat them with dignity and respect. And whereas the Trump administration has indicated it will continue to weaponize federal agencies to terrorize immigrants, communities of color, protesters, and communities in which the elected officials oppose Trump and/or his policies. And whereas the Trump administration has insisted, contrary to the clear letter of the law, that federal agents and troops have absolute immunity from any state prosecution, up to and including prosecutions related to assaults, kidnappings, and killings. And whereas the U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, is refusing to investigate in good faith the crimes committed by federal agents, and instead, in coordination with the Trump administration, has adopted a functional policy of non-cooperation with local law enforcement when federal agents kill, assault, or otherwise injure residents of the United States. And whereas the DOJ, in coordination with the Trump administration, has undertaken unlawful investigations into the protected speech and associations of victims of ICE brutality in violation of their First Amendment rights, and further demonstrating that the DOJ is not acting in good faith to protect the people of the United States. And whereas the sworn duty of local law enforcement is to protect all residents against criminal acts and uphold the laws of the Commonwealth and the Constitution of the United States. And whereas the use of Section 287G agreements has diverted taxpayer resources away from public safety into immigration enforcement and has led to gross civil rights abuses across the nation, including abuses against Massachusetts residents across the Commonwealth. And whereas in May and September 2025, the Trump administration began operations targeting Latino and immigrant communities in Massachusetts, with most of those detained having no criminal record, in unconstitutional retaliation for the perceived political affiliations of Massachusetts residents. And whereas as of March 10th, 2026, 7,030 people from 100 countries have been arrested by ICE in Massachusetts, nearly 5 times the 1,470 immigrants arrested here in the final 415 days of the Biden administration. They have been abducted by ICE in courts, the federal courthouse in Boston, police departments, and the streets of Massachusetts. And whereas public reporting indicates that federal officials and agents have admitted to illegally targeting residents by their race or color, and the federal courts have taken the position in Vasquez-Perdomo v. Nome that racial profiling is acceptable in policing. And whereas such incidents may be crimes under Massachusetts law, including but not limited to assault and battery, kidnapping, violation of constitutional rights, and assault and battery for the purpose of intimidation and conspiracy, which may involve senior federal officials, including President Donald Trump and Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. And whereas the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution does not grant a license to federal officials to flout state laws with impunity and provides no immunity to federal officials who violate state criminal laws without legal authority, who did not believe their actions were necessary or proper, or whose actions were not objectively reasonable. And whereas there's a well-established history of state prosecutions of federal agents and troops who commit crimes in violation of state law. And whereas the Easthampton Welcoming Community Trust Ordinance affirms that Easthampton is a welcoming city and seeks to ensure trust between employees, officials, representatives of the city, all residents of our city, and visitors of our city, facilitating dialogue as well as effective law enforcement and public safety. And therefore, be it resolved, we, the Easthampton City Council, do hereby condemn the unconstitutional actions of President Trump, his appointees, and federal agents engaged in unlawful operations to attack people in Massachusetts communities on the basis of their perceived race, ethnicity, sexual preference, gender identity, language, or political preferences, and call on other communities and public officials to join in this condemnation. And be it further resolved that we call upon state and local public safety officials to take affirmative steps to protect residents of the Commonwealth, Hampshire County, and the city of Easthampton from the unlawful actions of federal agents, including but not limited to the Massachusetts Attorney General making a public statement confirming the principle that federal officials and agents are subject to state criminal jurisdiction, the Massachusetts Attorney General and Northwestern District Attorney committing to beginning investigations where evidence indicates that a crime has been committed by federal agents, the Attorney General and District Attorney's offices issuing guidelines to state and local law enforcement to preserve evidence, especially in cases of federal non-cooperation with the investigations. The Mayor of Easthampton committing to support investigations with police and other public safety officials of suspected illegal acts by federal agents by collecting and preserving evidence of potentially unlawful actions. The Mayor of Easthampton working with other Massachusetts local officials, including police and other public safety and municipal leaders in consultation with legal partners to swiftly develop and implement protocols for protecting the safety and civil rights of all local residents in the event of a federal immigration enforcement action. Be it further resolved that we call upon Governor Maura Healey and Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll to immediately cease all cooperation agreements with ICE, including ending the 287G agreement with the Massachusetts Department of Corrections and any informal agreements that may be in place. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution will be sent to the offices of State Representative Omar Gomez, State Senator John Velas, Attorney General Andrea Campbell, Northwestern District Attorney David E. Sullivan, as well as the Office of Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll and the Office of Governor Maura Healey.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve the Easthampton City Council resolution in support of holding federal immigration agents accountable for violation of Massachusetts criminal law. Any further discussion? I saw Councilor Kwasinski's hand first.
I would love nothing more than to not have this sort of resolution before us. It would warm my heart. It would remind me of the days, I don't know if anyone saw the All-Star game last night, Major League Baseball All-Star game. It was really heartwarming to see kids and adults riding their bikes to the park and being able to participate and share in an experience that we all could gather behind. But when you see our government, our federal government, putting no cordoning off after a death in the streets, which occurred not through an accident. This was a potential crime scene, an area where someone ought to be investigating, and no effort was made to do an investigation. You have to lose lots of confidence in the federal government if you had any left. If you had any left. And then to hear of opening criminal investigations against people who were killed by agents in the past, that's unheard of. How can one possibly think that we're in a society where we don't have an obligation to stand up and say, enough is enough, not here, we won't stand for it, we will stand against it. So I stand against this against this type of activity and actions. I stand with the people who stand up for our immigrants, and I look forward to the day where we might have a society where we can go to baseball games and enjoy items of tradition that warmed the hearts in the past. Because going back to Nazi Germany is not warming the hearts of the past. It is absolutely imperative that we stand up and speak now. So this is, as far as I'm concerned, maybe way too late. We should be doing this and standing up in every way possible. And I encourage everyone who lives here to do the same. Take note.
Thank you, Councilor Kwasinski. Councilor Jamrock McQuaid.
Thank you, Madam President. So I want to speak as someone who is a second-generation American. My birth mother was an immigrant from Korea. As someone who has been deeply shaped throughout my life, both by people who are documented and undocumented, who sees people in our community who are immigrants, both recent and historical, that are integral members of our community. I want to hold space for the fear and the trauma that the current administration is putting on us as a community. I think it's like Councilor Kwasinski said, it would be great if we didn't have to take this action, if we didn't have to stand up, if we didn't feel the need to organize across individual municipalities to push back on this abhorrent use of the federal administration. That being said, I think what's really relevant with this resolution, that's about accountability. I think we can't wave our magic wand and bring these people back to bring them back to their families. We can't wave a magic wand and take away the trauma that has been done to children, to communities, to families. But what we can do is we can encourage our government to hold people accountable, to say no one is above the law, and to push back on this assertion that these agents have immunity to run rampant in our communities. So I just wanted to mention that. I also wanted to thank Sarah and Ellen and everyone else who came and spoke tonight. And thank you for pushing us on this and keeping us accountable on getting this passed. It's incredibly important. And I think, especially in the light of what we've seen this past week, it's very important that we're here tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? Just quickly, I'm taking my 88-year-old father to Ireland next week. And we are going to visit his great grandfather's homeland, the city where he came from. And when he immigrated to the United States, he fought in the Civil War. And here was an individual who immigrated to this country and fought for the ideals that he believed that the United States stood for. And the message that went out into the world. And I'm really happy that I am able to share that with my father. But it's also not lost on me that because of the color of his skin, I've, as a 2 generations removed, have had privileges and opportunities because of that. And so, you know, I recognize that I have an obligation to the members of my community, to my friends, to people I don't know, right? To speak up when I see things that are, I don't even have the words, you know, unjust, tragic, inhumane. I mean, I think you could find any number of words to describe the horrific situation that we are in and how immigrants are treated. And I take my responsibility as a resident of this community to speak up, and to speak up in solidarity, not just with the folks who also want to take action, but also with the people who don't have voices, the people who feel silent, the people who have been silenced, to remember them and to do this in the honor of their memories, and to make sure and to hope and that this doesn't happen to anyone else. So with that, Councillor Smith.
I'd like to say one comment as well. I think that a lot of the violence that has been, that has happened at the hands of ICE is really reminiscent of a lot of the racial tension that was occurring during 2020 era. And I think this is all part of a larger picture. I think anytime you have someone who is with a weapon and with anonymity, the possibility for that interaction to become unnecessarily violent and really taking away the rights of the person who is oppressed there is something that is really terrifying. It's really terrifying to watch some of our community members be scared to come out of their homes. Most of the people in Easthampton will never have that experience. You're safe in your skin. You're safe when you walk around Easthampton. Having children who are not and living in Easthampton, I'm very aware of a lot of the discrepancies and comments and hurtful things that people are mentioning that have been said. This has been my children's reality, just standing in our front yard with people going by in my own neighborhood, saying things to them, emboldened to say things to them because of the shade of their skin. So then when we have things happening at a federal level that is weaponized people in masks and also taken away accountability, that safety for some of our residents is much more acutely at risk than others. What a privilege to not have to worry about this, to not have to identify as someone who could be targeted. However, that is not the case for everyone in Easthampton. And at this particular time, we are seeing a lot of violence. And while the violence may have been in other regions of the country, right now it is coming precariously close to Easthampton. And the only way to protect against that kind of misabuse, the abuse of power, is to have a codification of something that says we don't abide by this. I know a lot of people within my precinct would say that resolutions, and have said that resolutions are unimportant and a waste of city funds. And again, I say, what a privilege that you don't need this protection from your city. What a privilege. So I really appreciate this coming forth. I do not feel that this is something that is unique to this historical time, unfortunately, but I do think to not say anything or to try to back it with any sort of resolution at this time is akin to saying nothing. And I agree, traditionally as a council, we have not done that. And I don't want to be in a council that does not do that at all. So that's what I have to say about this. I will be voting yes in support of this resolution.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Next, we have on our item, communication from elected officials, boards and commissions. Stephen Desaulniers.
Very good. That's a tough one.
Chair Licensing Board regarding resignation of the previous licensing board clerk.
Hello, my name is Stephen Desaulniers. I live on Pleasant Street in Easthampton, and I am the chair of the licensing board for the city of Easthampton. First of all, I'd like to commend the council and my fellow citizens for their eloquent remarks.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, if people could just hold it down a little bit. If you want to have a conversation, please exit and have that conversation. Just want to be respectful.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
I want to commend the board and my fellow citizens for their eloquent remarks. And on the decision to pass that resolution, it was really great and heartwarming. But I'm here today to talk about the recent resignation of the licensing board clerk, and it doesn't give me any pleasure to be here. I'm honored and grateful for the opportunity, but I really not happy. Why am I here? So the licensing board is a 3-member board. It's not paid, it's volunteer. And we have a clerk that's usually nominated by the mayor who does most of the work. And that work is quite a lot. It's a significant amount of work. Our clerk has been doing this for free for months, and recently, just for the benefit of the public, the mayor came before the council and the finance committee and requested a $1,500 stipend to cover the work, an amount that is ridiculously small. That doesn't even begin to cover the scope of work that the clerk of the licensing board does. A board that I might add brings in last year over $80,000 in monies to the city. I first heard of this when I got his resignation letter, and I was curious as to why. So I watched the meeting, the city council meeting, where this all went down, and I couldn't figure out exactly what was happening. Two things I heard not much discussion about why. Oh, and then, I'm sorry, the board, the city council decided that it wasn't worth $1,500, it was more like $1,200. I didn't hear any real discussion about why that number, how that number came about. And I also heard some language from members of the council that called into question his job performance of a city employee, made reference to complaints about his performance that are non-existent in my opinion, and called in question his character and his loyalty, all of which are reprehensible and should never have had any part of that meeting. I'm speaking to the entire council now when I say those who made those comments are just as culpable as those who did not jump up in defense of a city employee. It should never have come into the conversation. It had nothing to do with how much that job should be compensated. So I didn't really find anything in that first meeting. So I found out that this $1,200 number came up during the city council's finance committee meeting, I believe. And there I heard the only reasoning, if you would call it that, as to why the $1,200 was suggested. Now, before I begin there, I just want to say, and I'm going to try to be brief, and I'm going to try to be respectful, but I'm going to be blunt and frank. Before the mayor came before the board and mentioned, and just to give some context in his remarks, that the city council had previously, not too long ago, discussed this matter And that the debate had gone on to a point where they were discussing amounts of compensation. And the lowest was $5,000. The highest was 10, and they were somewhere in between. Those people had a real idea of what the scope of work of that job was. It is somewhere in between that number. The fact that $1,500 was being suggested it's more of almost an honorarium. It has no bearing on the scope of work. And anyone with even a passing knowledge of what that job entails would know that we're getting off cheap, that the clerk of the licensing board was taking one for the team because of the financial situation we're in. $1,500 is nowhere near, not even close. And he agreed to do it. And I think that speaks to his character and his commitment. Anyway, getting back to the only substantive discussion, and I use that word loosely, at the committee, this is what occurred. The council, a member of the council's, this is the reasoning. The reasoning per the member of the council. They took $1,500. They said, there's only 11 meetings a year. And I've watched some meetings and they are never more than an hour long. So if you take $1,500 and divide it by 11, it's $136 an hour. And no city employee gets that much money. That was it. That was the debate. That was the discussion. Thankfully, the chair of the committee was also there, and he had recent business in front of our board and had a much clearer understanding of just what this job entails. He first pointed out quite rightly that the 11 meetings a year, the work that's done to prepare for those meetings is the tip of the iceberg, and it was an apt metaphor because the job is a lot of work, an awful lot of work. To quote the chairman of the finance committee, a significant amount of work. He had just come before the committee because an organization he was part of, not part of city government, was seeking to get a license transferred. That's an awful lot of work. It's just like applying for a license. They're that thick. It's intense. And he said from the start of the process to the end, 20 or 30 hours for one license. And that just seemed to go into thin air. And a motion was made to reduce the already ridiculously small amount of $1,500 to $1,200. And now I'm not sure, that was it. That was the sum total of the debate. And first of all, I would say, why are there only 11 meetings? Can anyone tell me? Not 12, why only 11? Because part of this job is cyclical, meaning that there are certain parts of the year that are really busy. It's busy all the time, but it's certain amount of times of the year are very busy. November is the time we don't have a meeting because the clerk is so burdened by all of the new, all of the licenses being, what's the word I'm trying,
renewed?
Thank you very much, renewed. That they don't have any more bandwidth left. So we can't even have a meeting. They cannot take on any more work. It's that much work. And so that's why. So this Neverland notion of dividing 15 by 11, I don't know where that comes from. I still don't understand it. It's just to give you, no one asked me. No one said, hey, maybe we should ask the clerk. The chair of the board, what they think this should be, what this number means. No one asked the previous clerk what they thought, how much extra work this is. I did. I spoke with the previous clerk, and they estimated for the first 2 or 3 years, it was about 20% of their time at the job. Interestingly, why 2 or 3 years? Because the learning curve for this job is so steep. you have to know a lot. You have to be bright. You have to, the clerk of the licensing board is the city liaison to the state liquor board. Everything goes through that desk, over that desk. And you have to develop and maintain a good relationship with that board, and that means you don't ask them a lot of questions that you should be able to answer yourself. And that means you have to be able to read law, for example. One of the many things, the skill set that is required by this job. I've written and read a lot of contracts, and reading laws that were written maybe 75 or 80 years ago in legalese, it's a plod, and you have to learn it, because I know from conversations with the ABCC, they're very good about answering questions, but if you come back if you haven't done the basic part of your job where you can't read the statutes, and it's all statutory language, which you're all familiar with, can be very thick, hard to pull the pertinent message from, then they're just not going to take your call, or they're just not going to call you back very soon, or when your licenses come up, it's a really important job. Recently, we had a city council, a board meeting, and we didn't have a clerk, so nothing was prepared. So in my arrogance, I thought, well, I'll just get access to Permit Eyes, and I'll get the materials together. And I was very soon disabused of the notion that I could do this job and figure this out in even a week. And I have no fear of technology or software programs. So the clerk, the former clerk, I came down to City Hall and I said, I need your help. And they graciously agreed to create these materials. And on the agenda for that meeting, just as an example, again, of the workload, was our first open license. We hadn't had one since I've been on the board for a few years. The city hasn't had one. It was the first open license, which is the same as a transfer, the same amount of work, again, a pile of papers this thick. And I sat down and watched what we had to go through. And it wasn't a matter of collating a bunch of forms, of which there are many. The list of documents that were required for a license for the state is a page-long single space with check boxes next to them. It's extensive. You can't just get that from a citizen and then send it into the ABCC, because they are going to send it right back to you if an I is not dotted, if a T isn't crossed. I mean, if anything is out of order, it's sent back, and that's another 2 months for that citizen to weigh in and get their license, which could mean the end of their business or whatever. So I sat down with the clerk, and it took about 45 minutes to go through all these documents. And I've done this before. Before I sign off on that, I read through them. But just to watch the process and to say that, and we found something that wasn't right, that would have bounced this thing back, and we've corrected it in time. The attention to detail that you have to have for this job is intense. You just can't not be on top of your game and do that job. A job he's been doing without pay for months, and doing quite well, I would add. I'd say it hit the ground running. Again, I go back to the former clerk's mention of a 2 to 3 year ramp up learning curve. He said, meaning about 20% of your time is taken care of is this job. And after you sort of, the workload doesn't slow down, it doesn't decrease, but you're better at it, so you have to spend more time. That's just how that works. I've mentioned the cyclical nature of it. This is a constituent-facing job. It was made mention that, why, I don't understand how, this is why are we giving this person money when it's doing a job during work hours? I was like, there's no other way for this position to work. They have to be at City Hall when City Hall's open for constituents to come in and ask the myriad questions that they have. You're shepherding every piece of licensing through a very intense process to the state. and you're helping the citizens of Easthampton in a very important way. Again, in a job that generates $80,000 plus in revenue every year. That's a little bit, I hope I've helped to give you maybe a better idea of what that job entails, why $1,500 was, you were getting the clerk for a song, why $1,200 was insulting, quite frankly, and the lack of any debate or curiosity on the part of the council or the finance committee about asking anybody who might know a little bit more about the job what they think it should be making. So now we get to get to the hard part. It's a two-part question here. I guess what I'm going to ask of the council is that you give the $1,500 to the clerk, for not just for the work that he's going to do, but for the work he hasn't been paid for. It's a criminally small amount, but we all understand, the clerk included, that we're not in a position right now to be throwing the money that previous councils have assessed was adequate, $5,000 to $10,000. One other thing, speaking to the previous clerk, she said that it was really a part-time job. I mean, it's that much work. So on one hand, there's two things, and again, getting to the hard part. I'm asking that you put that $1,500 back. It's pennies for what you get for the return on your investment. It's not enough to cover the work. We have a young man who's willing to do it. I don't know who you're going to find to do it. I wouldn't take that job for $1,500. No way, not at all. Now we come to the part where the reason I'm here, because of what was said at this council and what was not said, I might add, by the rest of the people who didn't speak, led to the resignation of our clerk. His job performance was publicly discussed in a way that should have nothing to do with the matter at hand, and I don't know that, is it common for the city council to criticize public employees at a public meeting? I was shocked to hear it. There was a claim made that there were complaints. There had been complaints about his job performance, and as far as I'm aware, none came from the licensing board, and none are sitting in a file in Human Resources. I'm aware of none. That claim was made. That claim is false. Then his character was called into question. And I still have watched this film, watched the council, this particular part of the council meeting several times, and I still don't understand what was being brought up, but apparently one of the council was watching one of the meetings and some sort of leadership thing was mentioned, and it was interpreted and publicly stated that if the current clerk's loyalty lies with the mayor, again, I don't even know what this means, then maybe the money for this position should come from the mayor's budget. So you publicly criticized him. You made false claims of official complaints, and you questioned his character and his integrity. Any self-respecting person would have resigned the next day, which is what he did. I'm asking you, I don't know who you're going to get, who the mayor's going to get to cover this job, because essentially you've shut down a part of city government. And that money that comes in, that 80 grand every year, that faucet's off. So next week, when we get permits and applications and that money comes in, it's not coming in. No one's doing anything. You have rendered that board inoperable. I think your decision was incorrect, but that can be fixed with a motion, with a simple motion. Let's put this $1,500 back for the work that hasn't been paid for and in recognition of the fact that this person is doing a job that requires far more compensation. And because he understands what we all understand, that the city's in a bit of a bind right now, financially. Now, the bell that can't be unrung was the language used to criticize him and, quite frankly, vilify him in front of the entire city. I don't know what to do about that. I don't know that, I have a suggestion to make, that the entire council issue a formal apology to the city employee. I think that's the very least you can do. I'm pretty steamed about it, how we, and I don't think that that's, I'd like to think that's not how we run things here. It was just the wrong place. It didn't have anything to do with the matter at hand. The matter at hand was not handled well. And the only thing that you can do, I think, at this point is realize, okay, we messed up. Both those who spoke and both those and those who didn't speak up when this person was being just slandered, quite frankly. A public formal apology by the council, I think, is in order. And then maybe we can get this young man to come back and be our clerk, which I would have no problem with. I don't know why he would, after what he's been put through. I don't know why he would. You might have just given him the best out of his career. You know, like, why would I go back and do that job for this little money after how I've been treated? Again, I wouldn't take that job for $1,500. You're gonna be hard pressed to find someone to do it. I don't know what the form is. I've never been here before. Do I stay here and answer questions, or is my public speak time done and that's it? I'm formally requesting that you reinstate the $1,500 and that you issue a public apology for the way you all treated that young man.
Thank you. Questions? Councilor Markey? I don't know. Nope.
Thank you, Madam President. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that a councilor has to put forth an act, then there has to be a public hearing if there is a request for funds to be added to the budget. Right?
Councilor or Chair Peak?
We couldn't independently initiate that, but given the information for if the council was inclined to do so, and the mayor initiated a transfer to that budget, we could bring the funds back in, but the council's not in a position to independently initiate that any expenditure from the city once the budget's in place. It's something that we could do, but the mayor would have to initiate that process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't have any say over the budget. Do you have a follow-up question? Do you have a follow-up question, Councilor Markey?
If the, forgive me, I am a new councilor, so I'm still, if the mayor were to bring that forward, I certainly wouldn't be opposed. That's all I have to say.
Councilor Kwasinski?
I just wanted to follow up on Councilor Peak's statement to say the law, not only are we not in a position, the law prohibits the city council from doing so. And that's important to understand. There is no possibility of that measure coming from the council as initiated by the council.
So to my understanding, you're saying the mayor has to bring in.
The mayor must initiate this, and then, as Councilor Peak had stated, the city council.
You can reconsider.
Can reconsider.
Fair enough.
Matter in an appropriation.
Fair enough.
Request.
That's fair.
Councilor Newton?
I think during that meeting, I was under the impression that Evan, right, his salary.
Let's keep his name out of it.
Okay,
We've
sorry.
already done enough.
I'm sorry. The clerk. I was under the impression that his salary was cut, and then that money was then put into this new position, but it was making it so that it seemed like his salary was cut, but like that's where was confused, or I didn't feel confused at the time on my decision, but now I'm feeling confused because I was under the impression that the previous clerk was making a much higher salary, and that's why they were doing that position unpaid, because it was during business hours. So I would not be opposed to raising the assistant's salary.
So that's not an item that's for discussion.
No, I know, but
So-
that's
so if
like
you have a
why I
question-
didn't think that we should be paying that position, because it was it was not a position previously that was being paid.
I might add,
Yep, so
excuse me.
just one
Oh,
second.
sorry, sure.
Just one second. So again, we have to be careful what we're talking about right now. We're not deliberating on an increase in salary, right? We're having the conversation regarding this, right? But we can't deliberate on making a decision about next steps, right?
And I was just only going to say that, to your point, not really to your point, but it's a nominated position. Traditionally, the mayor has nominated somebody to be the clerk of the board. And for whatever reason, that part of the job, because it's not guaranteed that the nomination will be accepted, is not part of the remuneration, if that makes anything clear. It's a nominated position. It's a non-voting member of the board. So to make, you can't guarantee that he's going to be accepted, his nomination is going to be accepted, and make that part of his pay.
He's appointed by the mayor.
Can I ask
Right.
another question?
No, he's appointed by the city council and the
Well, it's
the board,
put forward
right?
by
Yes,
the- yes.
he's allowed to nominate that position. So you can't really have the money as part of his salary.
In the past, in the past, has there been someone who has served as the clerk that was not also in the mayor's office?
Yes.
Madam
So,
President?
just one second. I believe that the finance director sat in that position before. Yeah, hang on one second, there's two hands over here. I think I saw Counselor Peak's hand first.
Sure. Just to Councilor Newton's point, my understanding of the situation here, and I could be wrong about some of the details, but my understanding is that the previous executive assistant to the mayor, who also served as licensing clerk, that was a component of her job description. So when the current, I believe his title within the mayor's office is office manager, was brought on, there was a question at that time about who would serve as licensing clerk, and as such, that additional work was not included in his job description. And yes, between those two positions, there's a substantial salary differential, only part of which would be explained away by the additional licensing clerk duties. So the point is that there was work being done that was not part of somebody's job description. So the idea was put forward to issue a stipend, which there are other city employees who are beneficiaries of a similar situation, who I won't call out by name, but we all know that there are people who have their day job and then there's other work outside of that job description that they are paid a stipend for. So that the idea was to do something like that. And,
Can you tell me what, just for the public, you don't have to give names, but what positions?
well, I believe the clerk of the council, right?
Well, yes, but
is
that's a
also-
part of our charter, but who else?
Well, let's start with that one, but the point is that the clerk of the council doesn't always have to be the city clerk.
No.
The job, the responsibilities that come with being clerk of the council, many of them are done during the day.
Yep, so
And-
that's why I'm asking,
Yeah.
so.
I believe that there's also some within the school department, people who are teachers, but they also have the title of ex-coordinator. I think this was a thing that came up during the budget process. People were talking about like the diversity coordinator, as if that's like a position, when in fact that's like a teacher who gets perhaps a stipend, or perhaps not, maybe it's just an honorarium or something, to take on an additional amount of work that's not just directly in their job description.
I'm just, for the public, wanting to provide that clarification.
Madam President,
Hang on,
point of order.
is,
I believe the council's out of order in discussing the financial matters that are at hand and whether someone is paid as an employee or whatever. That's not what we're here on the
Yes,
agenda.
I
What we're
agree.
on the agenda is to hear information from the chair of the licensing board regarding the resignation, and that has been delivered. I believe if we have questions
Yep.
about the resignation, that's in order.
Yep.
So I ask for a ruling by the chair.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get us to, but things were being said, so I just felt, it felt like it was very confusing. So, Counselor Smith, did you have a hand up? Related to the topic.
I just want to acknowledge the frustration. I hope that in the future, the administration would consider the difference between a stipend versus a salary point. As a counselor, hearing that this job takes up 20% of an employee's time does not feel responsible to say this should all be done in a $1,200 or $1,500 stipend. As a counselor, I am limited from saying this person deserves more in their salary. However, I do feel very concerned about the amount of work that is being put into a stipend that is any stipend, simply because there's such a likelihood that that person is going to be taken advantage for their hours. And that was my concern in the vote. And I'm only stating that simply because you were asking directly for that information that would say, if we didn't say something directly there, what were we thinking? And I just think as a member of the public, want to answer that. That was my rationale behind that. Not to say that there's not a problem here, but I don't think a $300 raise was really respectful of the amount of work that the employee was putting into it, and I didn't think that was the appropriate solution.
And to just briefly say that the 20% job, again, I want to reiterate that for the first 2 or 3 years, the previous clerk said it was about 20%. Again, the workload doesn't shrink, you just get better at your job, right? But it's that much of a learning curve so that you get good at it.
Other questions, Counselor Newton?
Yeah, I just want to say that what Counselor Smith said is like the same kind of conflict that I was having during that time.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about whether it should be this, or whether it should be that, but you know, at the end of the day, it's not enough money, and you questioned his character and made public comments. Not you. Not you. Not you. Some people did.
Did I?
Yeah. Not you, but no one defended it, and that's why I'm so angry. And I defy anybody to watch that meeting and not come up with the same conclusion.
Great. Any other questions? Counselor Schmidt?
Yes, please. Thank you. My question is, after the stipend, after we changed to this approach of providing a stipend for the work, after the position was eliminated that it had been previously folded into, were there other individuals who did the work for that stipend?
There was a time before our recent clerk where we had, I believe, one of the assistant clerks came in to cover a couple of months before they started. Yeah, so it's not, anybody can do the job. It's not, if that's your question. Yeah, but there have been other people who's done the job.
Counselor Schmidt?
That was my question. Thank you. Were they paid for that time?
Yes, I'm pretty sure I have this number correctly, but there were 2 months, 2 meetings that were held, 2 months of work, and they were paid $800, $400 a meeting, which is a little closer to where it should be.
Great. Again, make sure we're staying focused. Counselor Schmidt?
My next question is not strictly focused on this particular point, so I will withhold it.
Madam President.
Counselor Kwasinski?
I just would like to speak to the chair and thank you for bringing this to our attention. I will re-watch the meeting for one counselor. I can imagine that many of my colleagues would like to do the same. At least I hope so. And I also would like to reach out and say, feel free to call me. My telephone number is 413-575-6009. I would like to speak with you personally about this. And I think that's the appropriate way to proceed with this matter.
I very much appreciate that comment.
Great, thank you. I reached out as well to have a conversation with you as well, so I'm happy to.
Yes, and now that I've said my piece, maybe that conversation will be fruitful.
Yeah.
To the point of a public apology.
That's one of the things.
I'm requesting the board publicly apologize for, no, you don't have to do it tonight, but next month, we're going to have a meeting of the licensing board that is going to be dysfunctional and where no business will be done. Which means, just for example, the Poco Party, the Polish picnic will not get their one-day license. Just a little thing. Like, I like that event. I like going to that.
Sure.
And it's not going to happen.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
Other comments? Okay, great. Correspondence, seeing none. Mayor's communications, not present. President, Vice President, just want to remind folks that we're really at our midpoint of the year. So if folks can do what they can to get their meeting minutes up to date before we kind of the next half, just so we don't get behind. This is typically when we start to get behind, so we'd really appreciate if folks could have their meetings. There's obviously more items coming, so it would be greatly appreciated if you all can set your meetings so that you can attend to the business as well as address meeting minutes. Because I think that, as we talked about before, residents have a right to that information. Also want to extend some gratitude to our clerk, Mary Ann, for all of your hard work related to the both the election, and I didn't do this at the last meeting because there was a recount that was coming, so I appreciate all the hard work that you and your volunteers did and staff for that and organizing that. So you are very much appreciated in all that you've done for kind of getting that in order and whatnot. So thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Vice President Jadzak.
I have nothing to offer tonight.
All right, thank you. We have council communication, announcements, standing committee reports. Counselor Jamrog McQuaid, give an announcement.
Thank you, Madam President. So I just wanted to share that the Easthampton Rent Study Committee has released a survey as sort of an extra way for the community to provide feedback. It provides a lot of the same information that was given during the listening sessions that we held earlier this year. But for people who weren't able to make it, we just provided a format for people to enter feedback, and that'll be open until August 14th. Right now, it is on Facebook, but I'm going to ask for the city to put out a press release, so just look out for that in the next few days.
Very good, thank you so much. Councilor Marquis.
Thank you, Madam President. The Easthampton Tenants Union will be meeting here in City Council chambers tomorrow, Thursday, July 16th at 5:30 p.m. They will have a special guest, a congressional candidate that is running in the Massachusetts 1st Congressional District, which is ours. The main topic of discussion will be housing. All are welcome. Again, please join them again tomorrow, July 16th at 5:30, right here. Thank you.
Awesome, Councilor Smith.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to give an update about the cell phone tower that is being proposed for One Cook Road. That is a lot that resides in Southampton that is immediately adjacent to Pomeroy Street in Precinct 5. So we went, pause for a minute. Councilor Kwasinski and Councilor Dunham and I all attended the Southampton Planning Board meeting on July 8th, where they discussed the placement of this particular tower. The tower was initially proposed to be right on the border of kind of right across from 27, 28 Pomeroy. It would be right in their backyard. At the first public hearing for this in Southampton, the company that's constructing the tower, Verizon, looked at other areas on One Cook Road to put the tower instead. So they've moved the placement of the tower from about halfway down that street to the beginning where it meets more closely to Line Road. So if you're familiar with that precinct, it's essentially people on one part of the road would have been affected by the tower, and now that's just moved to their neighbors a slightly more up the road. There are some important dates that are a continuation of this that I want to make sure people are aware of. The first is that when the cell phone tower is going up, they have to give notice to abutters of what that would look like. And so what the company did last time and what they're going to be doing again is they erect a balloon that is going to be to the same height as where the tower would be. So the residents' visual is notification that this is where a cell phone tower will be. It's going to obstruct your view if you can see that balloon. If you can't see the balloon at all, it's not going to be in a place where it would affect you. So the balloon is going up on July 18th, Saturday, from 9 a.m. to 12. So I strongly urge Precinct 5 residents, particularly those closer to Pomeroy and Line Street in Cook, to look in the air on that date to see if that would obstruct your view. There are conflicting opinions as to whether or not that would be set back enough. And I just want to also say that they were concerned with the balloon that it requires a sunny day with very little wind because they don't want the balloon to, fly around in the air. So they make that determination at 7 a.m. the day of. So it's possible if there's no balloon out on the 18th, they will try for the 19th from 9 to 12, the same time period. And if that weekend doesn't work weather-wise, they're going to try again for the following weekend. And again, that is just so people can see where the tower would actually be constructed. The next hearing for this, the next public hearing, will take place on August 19th at 7 p.m. in the Southampton Town Hall, which is at 210 College Highway in Southampton. But this is the opportunity for residents who see the balloon or are concerned about the cell phone tower to come to that hearing. If you can't make the hearing in person and you would like us to deliver correspondence on your behalf, certainly can do that. I will be attending the August 19th meeting as well. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew that was happening, especially since this is happening in Southampton rather than in Easthampton. Aside from the abutters, there's not much public notice to Easthampton. So that's my announcement.
Great, thank you. Committee reports, Chair Peak, it looks like I haven't seen finance this sparse in a long time.
It's a little refreshing. Yes, no report for tonight. I've got some stuff to talk about when we get to new business, but till then.
All right, thank you. Public Safety, Chair Newton.
Yes, so we met on July 7th. It was July 7th. Sorry
Sometime in
about
July.
that. It was last week. Today's only the 15th. Okay, it was July 7th. Sorry. We met with Chief Norris and had a great presentation from him. We also worked again on the bike ordinance, and we feel we're getting to a place where it's almost ready, so we would like to request a public hearing for the second meeting of September.
Second meeting of September, so we are talking about
16.
Oops, sorry, July, you said 16th, yep. So is that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to set a public hearing, the public hearing for
the e-bike
ordinance. So we have a motion and a second to set a public hearing to discuss the general ordinance for the e-bike regulation and use. Any further discussion? Or for September 16th? at 6:15 in these chambers. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes.
And that concludes.
All right, September 16th, just checking. Okay, great. Appointments, Chair Smith?
Thank you. The Appointments Committee hasn't met since our last meeting, but we have several appointments coming up, so we'll be meeting then. And also, we'll be looking over the ongoing agenda items. And thus concludes.
Great. Awesome, thank you. Ordinance, Chair Jamrock McQuaid.
Thank you, Madam President. So Ordinance Committee last met, actually last night on July 14th. We discussed 3 agenda items, the residency requirements on boards and committees. That one will still needs additional work, and Councilor Smith is leading that effort given her position on appointments as well. We also discussed the proposed cryptocurrency ATM ordinance. Again, there's still more work to be done on that. We're gonna send that over to the city solicitor and get some more input from the police chief on that. And then the last thing we discussed was the request to add a new pay plan position of the recreation coordinator, and that we were able to get sort of all the information we needed and we voted unanimously to recommend that approval to full council. For that item though, we do need to set a public hearing. So in the form of a motion, I would like to set a public hearing for the request to amend Easthampton City Ordinances Exhibit A to add new pay plan position of recreation coordinator for September 2nd at 6:15 p.m. in these chambers.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to amend Exhibit A to add new pay plan position of recreation coordinator. Public hearing for September 2nd at 6:15 in these chambers. Any further discussion? I do have a question just for the public, given all of the financial kind of situations. Is this to actually hire this individual in the near future?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So my understanding and what Director Mason let us know during that meeting is that there is no immediate plans to hire that individual, but as with other positions in the city, we need the placeholder in the pay plan in order to set that in motion. So I think there was an idea that we could cover some of this position with grant funding and cover, potentially park fees, that kind of stuff. So yeah, and I'm sure when we have that public hearing, Director Mason will be there to give us that information.
Yeah, I just wanted to address that now, just because I know it is a concern of folks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
So our next ordinance meeting is set for July 28th at 6 p.m. To handle some of that other continuing business and as well as some of the new business that we're getting tonight. And we will need to meet fully remote that day.
Great.
Thus concludes.
Great. Thank you. Property, Chair
Thank you,
Krasinski.
Madam President. The Property Committee, of course, met and did the poll locations, and there's no further report at this time.
Great. Thank you. Chair Krasinski, Rules and Government Relations.
Rules and Government Relations have a couple of items on the agenda, and I expect that we'll be meeting either the week after next or in early August to deal with those. That concludes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councilor Kwasinski. We have no old business, new business. I will turn it over to Vice President Jacek.
Thank you. I will defer to Chair Peak for the first item.
Okay, first two, right?
First two.
Okay, so the first one's a first reading of a supplemental appropriation. So I would like to do this first reading in the form of a motion and also set I'm sorry, when is our August meeting? What day?
August 5th.
August 5th. And also set a public hearing for this item for our August 5th meeting at 6:15 in these chambers. Request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. Amount requested $102,080 to be transferred from capital stabilization, $102,080 to be transferred to Mass Trails Grant Program revenue, $102,080. The amount requested will be used for the following purpose. This funding will serve as a match funding for the FY27 Mass Trails Grant Manhattan Rail Trail Pavement restoration and repair project.
I have a motion and a second for the supplemental appropriation of $102,080 from capitalization to Mass Trails Grant Program revenue to send this to finance, as well as set an August 5th public hearing at 6:15 in these chambers. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes.
Okay, the second one's a little unusual. We only do this once a year. It's an interdepartmental transfer that is just it's the end of the year transfers. So we don't have to send this to committee. We don't have to have a public hearing. The only time we're allowed to do this is the first 15 days of the fiscal year, which ends today. But basically, once the budgets are closed out, when there are cases where there had been something that was slightly over or underestimated, the city, under Mass General Law, Chapter 33B, has the authority to make those end-of-year transfers to just close out certain accounts where something might have been under or over estimated. In this case, the city is requesting the transfer of $2,129.55 from the reserve fund to cover a handful of salary and miscellaneous and professional and technical services. That always is a tongue twister for me. Items that had that when they were closing out the books, they realized they needed a little bit of extra money to make those items whole. If you have any questions about the specific reasons that these items were calculated the way that they were, I would probably direct you to our auditor to answer those, but essentially that's what this is. It's an end of year closeout thing that's allowed and that we do, not necessarily every year, but it's pretty common that we end up doing this as a result of just things that come up after we pass the budget, after we close out the fiscal year, as we're closing out the books. Sometimes things like this come up.
Mm-hmm. Do people have questions for Auditor Patel? I'm not even sure if she's online.
She is.
Is she? She is.
I thought so.
Oh, there she is. Do you, Councilor Quincy, do you have a question for Auditor Patel?
I think for transparency purposes for the public, and since there are salaries here, and that one of the amounts is $1,305, I think we'd be remiss not to ask for an explanation.
Councilor Patel, can you provide explanation for the auditor's salary?
For the, may I clarify? I thought I was asking for an explanation of all the salaries quickly, if there seems to be something that is similar, as simple as, well, the calculation could be an adjusted week, a partial week, a partial day that wasn't included. I don't know what the
So Auditor Patel, can you speak to all the various salaries?
Yes, I can. The first $1,305.07 is my salary. If you remember, last year my position was at the 70 hours bi-weekly budgeted, then restored the hours for 80 hours for six months till December 31st, and then it was restored again. I came in front of the City Council with an estimate that this is going to be the calculation plus the backlog. There was an overtime paid for the position. I thought that I won't need that time, but I needed a little bit extra time, so that's what lead into this $1,305.07. Other two for the assistant auditor salary and part-time clerk salary, and actually city clerk assistant salary, it's a rounding difference for, when we do the calculation during the budget time, we have decimal plus 4 digits after the decimal points in the payroll system. But when we do the calculation for the budget purposes, we only use 2 digits after the decimal point. which always creates a rounding difference in the budget. I had more than these kind of transfers, but other departments had enough money in their expense line, which I was able to transfer with the mayor's approval, which allows me to do it as per the city charter. I have no fat in my expense budget, so I had literally no money to transfer to my salary line. That's why I'm asking for an appropriation. City clerks, it seems like it's a partial rounding, but there was also some money was transferred to take care of the election cost or the advertising cost, if I remember this correctly. That also resulted into a little bit of deficit into that calculation. And I'm asking to cover this expense for the end of the fiscal year.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? No? So we have a motion.
I haven't made it yet,
Oh, okay.
but I can.
Okay, yeah, so that's what we need, so we need
Great.
the motion.
All right, so request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. Amount requested $2,129.55 to be transferred from Reserve Fund, $2,129.55 to be transferred to Auditor Salary, $1,305.07, Auditor Assistant Salary, $51.14, Auditor Part-Time Clerk, $27.34, City Clerk's salary, $488, City Clerk Assistant Salary, $143, City Clerk Miscellaneous Professional and Technical Services, $115. The amount requested will be used for the following purpose: to cover end of year 2026 budget deficit for various departments.
Second. So we have a motion and a second for an FY26 interdepartmental transfer of $2,129.55 to be transferred from the reserve fund to the aforementioned accounts. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Vice President Jadzak.
Thank you. Next, we have a city council action request to amend zoning ordinances to include section 10.11, temporary moratorium on data centers. And I'd like to make a motion to refer this to the ordinance committee.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to amend zoning ordinance to include section 10.11, temporary moratorium on data centers, and send that to ordinance. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
Our next city council action request is a review of the Affordable and Fair Housing Partnerships zoning ordinance recommendations, sections 5 and 6, and I'd like to make a motion to also refer this to the ordinance committee.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to send the review of the Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership zoning ordinance recommendations, sections 5 and 6 to ordinance. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
Our next city council action request is to amend the composition of the rent study committee to increase the total membership from 9 members to 11, with at least 4 members being renters in Easthampton. And I'd like to make a motion to refer this request to the rules committee.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to send the item of amend the composition of the rent study committee to increase the total membership from 9 members to 11, with at least 4 members being renters in Easthampton, to the rules committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
Our next action request is to address traffic and pedestrian safety concerns on East Street. And I'd like to make a motion to refer this to the Public Safety Committee.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to send the item of address traffic and pedestrian safety concerns on East Street to public safety. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
Next, we have a number of mayoral appointments pursuant to our home rule charter, section 3.3. I'll read each of these out in the form of a motion to refer this to the appointments committee. First is Marcus Jones to be appointed to the EDIC committee with a term expiration date of December 31st, 2026. Fred Pelka to the Commission on Disability with the term expiration date of December 31st, 2028. Thomas Strout to the Easthampton Cultural Council. Term expiration date is 3 years from appointment. Scott Reed to the Veterans Council with a term expiration date of December 31st, 2027. Maxwell Swisher to the Planning Board as an associate member with a term expiration date of December 31st, 2028. Chuck McCullough to the Public Library Association with a term expiration date of December 31st, 2026. Megan Tatey to the Public Library Association with a term expiration date of December 31st, 2027. And Meg Kohlenbach to the Board of Health with a term expiration date of December 31st, 2029.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to send the following, or the mentioned 8 appointments to the Appointments Committee. Any further discussion? Councilor Jamrock McQuaid?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to note that I will be abstaining from this motion just because I have a personal connection to someone.
Great. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Motion passes. That is all the items on our agenda. I will take a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn. Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.